One of the things to be aware of is keeping the melody clear. So if we take a look at the melody here, I'm going to pedal each beat, each quarter note, and listen to the sound. Okay. Sounds perfectly fine, but if you listen very closely, you'll notice one spot which may sound a bit more blurry or muddy than the others. I'll do it a bit more down here so that it's more obvious, because the bass sounds are more thicker and they tend to clash more easily. Whereas up here, the sounds are very thin and they die away quickly, so they don't clash as much or sound muddy. So for example, if I did this in the bass, it would sound like this, really bad, right? Listen. Very thick, very muddy. But if I did the same thing up here, how would it sound? Because the sound is thinner, and it's even clearer up there, it tends to sound clearer. So that's something to be aware of, is we hear blurriness more easily when we have notes that are blending together. But if it's higher up, it's not as muddy. It sounds a bit better. It sounds a bit better up there. So if I use the pedal here, I'll do it down here. Right? So how did that sound? If you listen very closely, you'll notice that in the second bar on the so fa, because both notes are caught in the pedal, they blur together. They sound a bit blurry, more so than the other notes. For example, right here, mi, so, e, g, those are blurring together, but they don't sound so bad because they're part of the same chord. So they are in harmony and they sound nice together. So even though technically it's a blur in the sense that they are sounding together, it's not blurry in the sense that it sounds nice. It's a pleasing togetherness. Mi, so, e, g are together, but they sound nice. But then, what about here? G, F, we can hear both notes blurring together. Because it is a second apart, it's a little bit more, not as nice perhaps. It sounds a little bit more dirty, shall we say. Okay, so if you wanted to have a clear sound and avoid that blur, well, you cannot pedal the way we just did, right? Which is an up-down, up-down. A normal up-down change. Up-down, up-down, up-down. Okay? You wouldn't want that. Now, this is very debatable because the blur happens only for one beat, and you change the pedal. You would change the pedal on the F here. Okay, just ignore my markings down here. You would change the pedal on the F here, so it sounds perfectly fine. I'll do it once again. I'll do it faster. So you end up only hearing the F at the end. So that's perfectly fine. But the other thing that comes into play is the tempo. Tempo affects how you hear blur. So if you're playing fast, then notes that blur, they're over with very quickly, so you don't have time to hear the blur. But if you're playing slowly, then you have time to hear the blur and it might start to bother you. For example, right? Now we have time to hear the blur before it clears there. Now it's clear. So, but if you go faster, everything goes by quickly. So it may not be as annoying when you're going faster. If you want clarity, but you still want the sounds to be connected. In other words, one advantage of pedal is it also makes repeated notes legato. So for example, if you were to play this without pedal, but do finger legato, it's not quite possible to do 100% legato, is it? Did you hear that? On the repeated notes, and you have to let go a little bit to play the note again, so therefore it's not 100% legato. So if you really want 100% legato on a repeated note, the only way is you gotta use the pedal, right? Now the notes are connected to each other, including the G and the F, the repeated notes. But here's the thing, you want it to be super clear on the G and the F. So how do you keep it super clear? Where it's very simple. We have to use a catch pedal. That's where the marking comes in here. So pretend I'm using the pedal here, down, up, down. Then what's going to happen is I bring it up here, I keep it up, and I bring it down right after I play the F. Okay, let's listen to that. Let me do down here so we can hear it clearly. You see? I played the F and then I caught it. Once again. You hear that? I only hear the F. So there's no blurring of the G and the F. Okay? I'll do it once again. And this time I changed on the second F as well. Okay? So if you wanted, you could do the same thing in the first bar. Let's say you wanted this to be super clear. You don't want the E to get caught in the pedal, right? Mi, so, because otherwise it would be. Mi, so, right? So if you don't want to catch the E, then you can use the same catch pedal. You can pedal here if you want, or simply not use pedal at the beginning, and simply catch the G right after playing it. Right after playing the G, you would catch it. Let's see what that sounds like. And I've caught it, and that will connect it to the next G. I've caught the F, that will connect it to the next F. So catch pedals can be used to make melodies super clear, where you only hear one note at a time, but it's always legato, including repeated notes, because they're getting caught by the pedal. To extend this idea further, let's take a look at the left-hand part as well. Now, if you looked at the bass literally, each note should last exactly 1/4 note long, one beat. But what if we want the sound to continue longer? Is that wrong? So for example, what if this sounded like... For example, this sound, because this chord is basically a G7 chord. This is the chord. Those are the notes in the chord. You're just playing the notes separately. What if you wanted the sound to continue? So what you hear now is GBF, just like it says there in blue. GBF, GBF, way up there. So, okay. So again, it sounds nice because it's all part of the chord, but again, you're making it sound more wet. So that's your interpretation. Instead of super clear, sorry, okay, super clear. Wet, including a G and a B sounding at the end of the bar, even though it doesn't say that the B should be sounding at the end, right? The B should just be here, but instead we've caught it in the pedal and kept the pedal down, and it's lingered on. So these are the kinds of things that affect the sound of the chord. Okay. The other option would be to change the pedal again, right? So you saw me do that once or twice already. So if you change the pedal here after catching the F and the B, then you'll lose the B again here, right? So you'll only hear G and F, which is a cleaner sound. It's a little cleaner. So G, F, we only hear that instead of G, B, no more B. Okay, so variations of clarity. To take it a step further, what if you said, I want the right hand to be very legato, and I want to be able to use the pedal to make the, using a catch pedal to make the repeated notes legato, but I want the left hand to sound dry and separated. Well, it's possible if you're very careful. For example, let me do down here so you can hear it very clearly. I'll do an octave lower. Did you hear that? Once again. Okay. So the right hand is very legato. I'll do it an octave higher as written. But the left hand was very detached. So yet again another variation that requires a bit more careful coordination with the hands. The left hand is to be short. Okay, so on. So we see we've gone into some great detail. Some of the ways of interpretation, looking at very dry sound, very wet sound, and then there can be in places in between. We've also looked at the pedal being used to connect the melody notes to make it legato, specifically repeated notes, because the fingers cannot make a repeated note legato. If it's separate notes, stepwise, I can make it legato, but repeated I cannot, only the pedal can.